The big boss man said cleanup's done, signed a paper, shook hands, packed up and run. They cut the ribbon, took their prize, but the ground still burns and the river still cries. Said we got it sealed, it's locked up tight, but I see the cracks in the pale moonlight. Ain't no steel strong enough, no law so bold to hold back fire 1,000 years old. Lou Batty Byrne, they said he'd heal. Monday morning they closed the deal. Doctors talked, but the paycheck spoke, and the truth went up in a cloud of smoke. They called it safe, they called it sound. Now the waste runs deep, so they cut the ground. Another grave, another name, another worker lost to the same old game. A fence with signs so bright, said stay out, it ain't alright. But kids see fences like a dare. If it's so safe, what you hiding there? Ain't no guard to watch that gate, just a name on a file and expired date. Rust on the lock, dust in the key, and the poison sleeps where the world can't see. 10,000 years, that's the plan, but a budget cuts quicker than a government hand. 5-year checks, 10-year lies, ain't nobody left to hear the cries. Tell me who gon' stand, who gon' keep, when the stewards quit and the books go cheap, when the contracts break, when the watchdog's blind. That poison won't care about the ties that bind. Bury the waste, stack it high, tell them all it's safe, wave the good years by. Move the dirt, change the sign, let another fool pay it in mind. They call it cleanup, but I call it a joke. They keep the ledgers, but they lose the hope. Ain't no fix, just changing the shirt. Ain't no cure, just moving the dirt. Leaves just old plutonium, son.
Hello.
Police don't care when the money's gone.
Yeah, baby. It's rocking. It's a small modular reactor hype train. If you use the link in the chat room, it'll automatically go to that song. James got a big surprise for everybody, particularly the nuclear industry, I think. His quality has gone top-notch. He's producing stuff that I've never seen that kind of quality before in details, which is exceptional when you think about that. It's exceptional. We're going to talk about low quality. Nuclear scientists, very low quality. They're the scourge of humanity. So you're 15 years down the road, and everybody knows what Chernobyl is, and everybody agrees it was terrible, but nobody knows what Fukushima is for some reason, right? It doesn't make sense. You got all the media worldwide, universities pretending they're 150 feet above a building that doesn't exist and that doesn't concern anybody, particularly the pro-nuclear community. Like, they're idiots. You got to be an idiot to cover this up. It's not like your loved ones are going to escape it. Stupid. The pro-nuclear are literally morons, incredibly educated, but they have no, what would you call it? What's the word? There's a word for it. It's not common sense. They have no. I usually know exactly what to say for it, but they have no reasoning skills whatsoever. There's 4 reactors in Japan. The radioactive fallout covered the entire planet. This is just 23 days. This is the French government. What it means is you broke the food chain worldwide. Like pretending that never happened is stupid. You literally got to be stupid. They're doing it in the hopes they'll have some magic nuclear renaissance. When you broke the food chain, you broke the food chain for 9 million species, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million species. Unusual amount of smoke billowing. This wasn't smoke, these are nuclear meltdowns. This is CBS, the biggest media in North America. Oh, yeah, it's a nuclear meltdown, but it's just smoke coming out of there. Nothing to be concerned about, said the people that are supposed to pay for it. How the hell did we ever lose our way so bad that this was allowed to happen? This kind of language. Reactor 3 and 4. You got all the whales emaciated. Should scientists apologize for remaining silent as the whales worldwide die of starvation? I think we should build ships that look like emaciated whales and fill them up with nuclear scientists, only give them water and make them row until they die. All of them. They're just the most evil people. They know what they're doing. They know they're exterminating all the species, and everybody is too busy. I don't know if living in denial or just stupid. This is why you get hired in the nuclear industry, because you're stupid. You got incredible education, so they can, as long as you compartmentalize, you can get a job, right? But then there's not a single person in the nuclear industry that people likes. There's nobody in the nuclear industry that the world recognizes. Right? They've been putting people like B. Gates and Elon Musk and these people that have an exceptional amount of money as their spokespeople. Because they're pro-nuclear, you should be too, right? These are scumbags. The entire industry is nothing but scumbags. All the academics and all the universities in the nuclear community are scumbags. These are scumbags, and the students that were almost human before they went there are scumbags when they come out of there. Permanent scumbags. There's no nuclear renaissance, there's not going to be. We already made sure of that. We've been at this for years. So these two buildings don't exist. It's pretty. You don't need to be an academic or a scientist or an engineer or anything else to appreciate what I'm saying to you. They're no longer 190-foot buildings. There's no longer anything there functional. And because it's a nuclear meltdown, you can't live in proximity. You can't hang out in proximity to this without dying, without your organs melting. So let's stick a couple of contraptions on it and then roll it to media claiming that they're 150 feet above it and everybody should shut up. And anybody that with a descending voice, then we'll just censor them as they don't exist, because radiation fallout is going to go away in a couple of billion years and everything will be normal. You had 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools with around 36 plus reactor cores, each of them equal to 100 to 140 Chernobyls, because they're massive. Plutonium, uranium, Chernobyl was a graphite, it was a new reactor, it was a small reactor. These are decades old. And at the top of the buildings, those red depictions up there were the fuel pools. Like, every nuclear scientist looked at this back when it happened, knew they were gone, and never spoke out. How can you trust anybody like that again? How does that work? What's the justification? How do you think that's going to resolve itself by letting them get away with this? Because you're talking about an extinction event from the radioactive fallout. This is just grey whales, but it's every species of whales are showing up emaciated worldwide, and pretending that's not happening is not an excuse. It's not a solution. It's a cover-up. It's a criminal conspiracy. It's a real-life conspiracy by universities and the nuclear industry, which is very powerful. So if they can cover that up, they can cover up. If you let them get away with it, there's no limit to what they're going to do next. And the only thing's going to be left, there won't be no whales left in 2 years. All of these grey whales are now gone. These are all recent dead whales that showed up starved all over the world. It's not just grey whales, though. Do you really think not holding them accountable, not getting in their faces, not calling them out for it is the solution? Do you really think that's the best way to go? Does anybody really believe that is going to work out well for everybody else? The nuclear industry are not the only entities on this planet, the people on the planet are the species, right? What they're doing is criminal. Everybody in the planet will call it criminal once they find out what's going on. Particularly their friends and families and loved ones and children and spouses will call them evil once they understand what they were doing for all these years. That is going to happen, whether I exist or not anyway. Or we, I should say, the people that are collectively pushing back. All the whales we're seeing worldwide are emaciated. Do you really think that this is going to turn out good in 2 years' time? The grey whales are gone this year. At some point in the next little while, I would imagine they're going to have to acknowledge that. And the longer they wait, the worse it is for them. And then obviously once the truth comes out about the grey whales, people are going to start asking the other question, are the other whales being affected too? And this stupid, idiotic climate change narrative is not going to hold any water at all. Ship strikes are no longer, because right now, the official story right now is all 27,500 grey whales in the last 5 years have died of ship strikes and entanglement. That's not going to hold any water to the rest of the planet once they hear that stupid lie. And they have dug that hole, and they're stuck in that hole. Now they're stuck with that lie, because that's what they've been telling everybody for the last 5 years. And they're still doing it as the very last whales have died. They rolled out that story even stronger. The main mouthpieces in particular were put on a pedestal and given to all the media, and all the media heard the same story. Cascadia Research Collective, for instance, they've been put on a pedestal, and all the media are getting the exact same story from the exact same people, right? That everything is okay, it's just some whales, it's just a little bit of this, we can stop the ship strikes, we can save the whales, and everything will go back to fucking normal. They should be in jail. These people should be in for jail. We don't have a right to exterminate the species, and the nuclear industry certainly doesn't have a right. Even though they're acting like it, and they're getting away with it currently, but they're getting away with it because they dug a hole. They had all the universities and all the media coming out saying that the buildings never even melted down or lost any of the inventories and everything was in tanks. United Nations has orchestrated this through many of the subsidies, which is still United Nations, right? The UNSCLEAR and IRPA and the IPRC, the International Atomic Energy Agency, are the same people on each of these entities. And that's how they hoodwinked you. Are you really think this is going to get any better? You really think the whales are going to stop fucking dying of starvation? And I'm talking to the nuclear industry. You really think that's how it's going to play out? You really think that your loved ones are not going to work out in the next few years, that you're the reason? Stupid. Do you really think that's not going to happen? And the nuclear industry, these people are the nihilist type people. if they think that their lies are going to be uncovered, they're more likely to take out their whole family and themselves because they're perpetually self-centered people. They're not people. They don't have any of the attributes of humans. Yet all the medias, all the universities claiming they're on top of these buildings and that everything, it doesn't look like that, it looks like this. Like this. And this is what they've done for Reactor 4. This is what they're now done for Reactor 3 in 2019, 20, and 21. Now they're doing the same thing for Reactor 2. Next year, they're going to do the same thing for Reactor 1. When all of these inventories were lost, and this matters. No, we're on top of it. Everything's good. Have a nice day. Dana's the lawyer. Haha. Does that, like, we got all the whales have starved to death. How does you think this is going to play out? Do you think this is going to stop randomly? Does people really think this is going to fix itself at any point in the future? Excuse me. We are wiser now. We are calmer now. Way to go, Dana. That's the solution. Everybody needs to like nuclear, and then everything will fix itself. Countdown to extinction. Well, the gray whales are gone this year. They're not gone later. They're gone. I've done a couple of presentations on it. You can watch it. I ran myself into the ground yesterday to see some puffins. And that, I had just nothing but, everything went wrong, but we still got there. Still dragged my ass all the way out to the cliffs. And I got some videos I'm going to post. I meant to do it yesterday, and I fell asleep as soon as I got home, crashed like, ugh. 20 minutes later or something. And then I've been zombied all day. I could try posting it while we're talking, I suppose. Not that that matters, but I'm having a hard time using my phone for that kind of stuff. I did try to stream live yesterday from the cliffs, and a couple of times I had like 2 bars, but I couldn't connect to the internet at all. I shouldn't be doing this now, but the problem is, like, there was a lot of people, tourists from different countries showed up to this place, and so there was a lot of people talking in the background, like right. They have everything now roped off, so you can only get so close to the edge of the cliff. I got within 15 feet of several puffins, so it was in 4K, 120 foot a second, so it's stunning footage. The noise is really good, except you can hear everybody talking now. I'm able to bump that a little bit, but it's not as much as I was hoping. So this was a story. We'd done 300 humpback whales gathered off Cape Town. The scientists say it's a great sign, because scientists are never going to be your friends, I can tell you that much. It's not a great sign. There were 7,000 whales got together and died several years ago of humpback whales. Same thing. When humpback whales get together, which they don't, after millions of generations they haven't done this, so how is it a good sign? Stupid. And the pictures they show, these pictures here, you can clearly see these whales are emaciated if you're familiar with what emaciated whale looks like, especially from above. Like, have you ever seen anything like this? This is in April. We won't see it anymore because they're gone. That's the end of it. Does the world understand the significance of that statement? Had they discovered humpback whales using AI technology? Wow, wow, wow. Whoopee. And then you just never open your fucking mouths again? You didn't use the same technology on the grey whales, did you, for some reason? No, they didn't die of ship strikes, or starvation, or starved. They died of ship strikes, Dana. Imagine being so evil that that's what you do for a living, is you lie about the whales being starving and emaciated worldwide. Imagine being that's sadistic. Yeah, the 3 grey whales were alive when they beached, and that was the end of it. No more to ever be seen. And they haven't acknowledged it yet. How come journalists couldn't show us a picture like this? They're going to get what's coming for them in the near future. The world's going to looking for them, I can tell you that. There won't be people going around saying I'm a scientist or I'm a nuclear academic in the near future. I can tell you that much. Because the whole supermarket will tear them apart. Like physically tear them apart. Fin whale stranded off the point of Cape Henlopen State Park dies. This is 2021. I don't know why they're showing you that picture right there when you have pictures like this. Why don't I show that picture? Like, you see how atrophied the skin is? How long do you think before it falls off the rib cages? Like, you can see the rib cages. But look at the rib cage on that whale up there. Look how it's missing 40, 50,000 pounds on the back end. Like, because it's in the ocean, it can do that. We didn't know that. We never seen this before Fukushima broke the food chain worldwide. When large numbers of grey whales began washing up along North America's Pacific coast nearly 6 years ago, it would have been within a year of Fukushima, because there was so much emissions from 6 or 8 fuel pools at the top of 4 reactors. Like, the inventories we're talking about from just one building, from the fuel pools, is just, there's no way to explain it. It's an event for your planet. Like, so in the United States, they were finding 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air post-Fukushima. And this doesn't go away for 300 years, but it's not. If you're finding that, then the biggest byproduct is curium isotopes with thousands of years. And plutonium, which is tens of thousands of years, for instance. But curium isotopes are the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod, not cesium-137, which is pulses energy 600 feet every second, by the way. But curium isotopes is way worse than that. You really think that this is not going to have... Like, the people in the nuclear industry are covering it up because they get a paycheck. Got to be the stupidest people we've ever come across. Just because somebody's got a great so-called PhD or master degree, that don't make them... there's a word for it, and I still can't come up with it. What's wrong with me tonight? I don't know the last time I stuttered on that word. Don't nobody know what the word I'm looking for is? It's reasoning skills, but there's another way to say it. And not reasoning skills. It's... Because I got that stuck in my mind, now I can't move on until I figure out what the right word is for it. What was it they don't teach in school? Not reasoning. It's like reasoning skills, but that's not the word we would normally use. I got to do it the hard way. How can I not know? Critical thinking skills. That's what I'm looking for, but that still didn't show up. I'll show you what I mean by that. Critical thinking skills is what I was looking for. Oh, there it is. In critical thinking. I'm wrong. It did show up. Hello, everybody. Reductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning. Nice try, guys. Critical thinking skills. When was the last time I could find that? I think yesterday damaged me. It was a long day. 15 hours. 600 kilometers. Very long hike. I actually got Charlie horses. Barely made it back to the vehicle. I was in pretty rough shape after that. Should scientists apologize for remaining silent as whales worldwide die of starvation? Scientists are unconcerned. Scientists are unconcerned as mass starvation event plagues whales worldwide, and they're doing it to protect the nuclear industry. I guess the reasoning is they only got to do it for a couple of years, then the whales are gone. They haven't got to tell the lies anymore. They just got to keep their mouths quiet. That's stupid. But like to do what they're doing, to be able to cover it up and have the media pretending, that's some power. That's some power to pull that off. That's the absolute power. There's no dissenting voices. On dissenting voices, censorship on me, you would think I was Osama bin Laden or something. 12 viewers, 13 likes, 13 votes. I know I've only been doing this for 15 years, but I've been at it for 25 years, but I've been doing these live streams for 15 years. Hello, everybody. But there's no one can tell me this is not an interesting subject. This is not an important subject. This is not the most important subject in human history. There's nobody can convince me that's not true. Excuse me. But there's a bad boy coming down the road. There is a bad boy coming down the road who's going to sort the nuclear industry out in many different ways. Nuclear industry is actually lunatics. I'm just heartbroken after seeing. Let me check the audio on this thing here. I think it's a bit low, is it? Let me turn it up a bit better. I still can't master that no matter what. All these years, I have a lot of equipment, see, and it's... So nothing got out of that building. Nothing. Everything that got out of the building went into 1,000 tanks. Everybody just, oh, okay. What's on TV? Click, 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 click. Where's your pa? Oh, he's probably watching TV. Where's your ma? Oh, she's probably watching TV. Very few people even know how to read anymore. Updated fin whale stranded off the point. We still haven't got to that story yet. Fin whale. To show you that picture. When large numbers of gray whales began washing up along the North American Pacific coast 6 years ago, marine scientists, the least likable people on the entire fucking planet, could only speculate at the reason, really. Why? Why was it I knew that Fukushima Fallout was a bad fucking thing and they didn't? That's it. I already lost control. Might as well. Was it disease? Was it ocean pollution? Was it ship collisions? Yes, ship collisions in 5 years killed 27,500 fucking grey whales, every one of them. That's the official story, by the way. They've been telling for 5 years. Every fucking whale. Oh, it's probably ship strike. Yeah, George, probably ship strike. We were going along the coastline yesterday for, it seemed like hours. And you look out on the ocean, you're looking right at the ocean, beautiful calm day, and there's nothing out there, not a wrinkle on the ocean, like a sheet of glass for a lot of the places. There was no birds, nothing. During prime migratory season. Should be around 200 million birds starting to migrate out of here. Right, there's around 46 million were supposed to show up in the spring and raise their fledglings. All the cliffs on the coastline were just like a cliff on a mountain on a hill, but it's not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to be full of excrement from birds for millions of generations raising their fledglings there. There's supposed to be 46 million birds come here to raise their fledglings. And you go along the coastline and see nothing, not a single bird out fishing to bring food back to its fledglings. And nobody acknowledging it. The local medias down here will run a story if someone gets caught without a seatbelt. Oh, there was a pickup truck with a passenger who got a ticket today for not wearing their seatbelt. And the next story will be, there was a driver lost their license for going 50 kilometers over the speed limit. And the next story is it's just, they won't talk about any of this. Nothing. Talk about recycling. And it's social engineering, so blatant. And so a lot of people, they're just glued to that. Every news cycle, they'll watch their TV. And if the TV, they're waiting for the TV to tell them what to do and how to think. Their parents should be arrested for having them. Oh, it could be a disease or ocean pollution or increasing, think of that word there, increasing ship collisions. Looking skinny or emaciated. But it must be a ship collision. Looking skinny or emaciated. All of them are, not many. Some had clearly died after being struck by a ship. Now remember, this story is 2021. In 2021, many were looking skinny or emaciated. What's the difference? What's the difference? Is skinny or emaciated? Is there a difference? Whales don't get skinny. Whales all have the same shape, right? They're very symmetrical. You can have some whales are skinny. Not like whales, not like people. Fucking idiot. Shit for brains. Now, after more than 700 gray whales washed ashore in Mexico, Canada, California, and other U.S. states since 2018, if I had seen a nuclear scientist or a marine scientist, they would kick the shit out of them on sight. I know I would have. And I wouldn't have to physically touch them to do it. I would go like, boo! Right? And they'll just crumble and they'll defecate all over themselves. And then they'll wipe that all over themselves to make themselves gross so I don't kick the shit out of them, see? And there'll be lots of them do it in the future. I guarantee you in the future you're gonna like, Dana was right. Look at that. So for every whale you find, there's 11 more sink. So you got to multiply it by 11. And now you got 7,700. That's the consensus, right? For everyone you find, 10 more sank at sea. So that's 11. So whatever if you got 700, let me go backwards. Now they're talking about gray whales, they're not talking about the other whales. They're just talking about gray whales. Don't forget that. 700 gray whales. But because the whales are skinny, you piece of shit, or emaciated, then you got to multiply it by 11. But then you got to multiply it because they're not healthy whales anymore. So when you find one, which is a rarity because they're so skinny, atrophied, or they disintegrated, they consumed every resource in their body. The only thing left is a skeleton and very thin skin and organs. So to be correct, you got to multiply by at least 2.4, which is what they started to do in the very last week of reports of gray whales, or the very last report, I think it was. They came out with that headline and a couple of stories on that one day, right? We covered that. You'll find it in my live streams. Just go back and you'll see it. They started using my number, which now becomes 18,000 whales. Gray whales had died at the 27,500 that they acknowledged would have been there in, say, 2016. At 18,480 plus died by 2021. And not from fucking ship strikes. And so 18,480, and we got to go from 2021 to now. I had said earlier this year we've seen 100 when they got 145 gray whales, not the other whales, but just gray whales, have showed up in the first 6 months on beaches, and every one of them were emaciated. And every fucking media out there tried to conflate it with ship strikes or entanglement, and show you a picture of an emaciated whale, which takes a couple of years to get that emaciated. It takes a couple of years to be this fucking emaciated. Not skinny. I have absolutely no contempt, I should say, for journalists and academics now. They're the fucking scourge of humanity. And everybody on this planet will agree to that in a couple of years' time. And anybody who's paying attention agrees to it now. New research published Tuesday, a single fucking paper, suggested the culprit, what a way to frame that narrative, what a despicable fucking way to frame it, was a critical drop in food availability. The culprit was you kept your fucking mouth shut and protected the industry for all these years, you fucking piece of shit. You fucking lowlife. You fucking parasite. You fucking maggot. Climate California. These are aggressive fucking scumbags. And in print, but if you meet them face to face, you instantly have nothing but a dislike for them. You know they're nothing but a scrawny little fucking chicken neck. It was a critical drop in food availability. You know, they fucking starved to death because the food chain was broken. Post-Fukushima, it was going to break anyway from all the radioactive fallout. Certainly from 1,000 fuel pools with no containment, still splitting atoms into your environment. There's literally no literature on that whatsoever. Nothing. Not a single fucking paper. When you take the fuel out of the reactor, it's called a fuel cycle. It's still splitting atoms for millions of homes and businesses. Now you're going to put it in a fucking pool with no containment and tall, skinny stacks where you're going to vent it all and you're going to surround it with farms. You can't understand, you can't picture that that's not a fucking genocide? How come? Lack of critical thinking skills? I don't think... No, because your media set it up so that you weren't able to comprehend what was going on. They were the people you trusted. They were the people who were supposed to fucking warn you. They were supposed to be the investigative journalism, not public relations fucking firms. Which is what they call themselves now. You think that you're going to escape the fucking nightmare this is? It's madness, boy. It's worse than madness. That they done it to us on purpose. And they knew what they were doing. They weren't fucking naive. They weren't gullible. They weren't threatened. They weren't manipulated. They weren't coerced or deceived. They willingly cut your fucking throats. Because they were the source of information. And they can say whatever they want, and you were stuck with that fucking narrative. And they took great joy in lying to you, and manipulating you, and deceiving you, and disenfranchising you from common sense. They took great joy. They reveled in fucking lying to you. Just bear with me now. And they were the ones that you entrusted to inform you. And you had to pay for it to read their fucking stories. Remember those days? What a disgusting bunch of parasites. They've never been held accountable, so they have no incentive not to be evil. We're trying to right that wrong, but clearly with the censorship on me, they're terrified of anybody and everybody. Let me show you what I mean here. So when you look at this, you're looking at nuclear power plant, you're looking at farmland as far as you can see, right? But they have tons of studies. There's PubMed, the government, tons of studies saying the food is going to suck up all the radiation it can find, every fucking bit of it. So, therefore, let's build our nuclear power plants in the middle of fucking prime farmland. Let's build them alongside our drinking water supplies and surrounded by prime farmland. 3 French nuclear plants halted production. Do you think that these power plants are in the middle of farmland as far as you can see in every direction from a satellite because they don't know they think it's safe? Or that they know you can't contain the poison? And if you don't put it in farmland where the food is moved out every so often, then the bioaccumulation in that area will become so noticeable that they'll jeopardize the entire nuclear industry. And if you make everybody worldwide sick through your food sources, they'll be too sick to pay attention to what you're fucking doing. So all the nuclear power plants, that's the Nogan, that's the Bugney nuclear power plant, and this is again the Nogan, surrounded by farms. Do you think that's an accident? Heatwave forces output cuts at Pax nuclear power plant. Well, that's it there, but that's it right there. When you zoom back out, if you're looking at it on a satellite, what are you looking at? Surrounded by farms as far as you can see. And then so why put farms when, you know, the food is going to suck up the fucking radiation? Why do that? And why do that for almost every fucking nuclear plant on the planet? When you're going to take the fuel out and put it in, see those tall skinny stacks? They're going to vent from the fuel pools, and this is where it's going to fucking land, in your food. And they have a ridiculous amount of studies saying don't do that because you're going to poison the food. And radiation poisoning is like no other. Back to that story of more than 700 gray whales washed ashore in Mexico, Canada, California since 2018 and 2021 is the story. What remains unclear is whether this malnutrition was caused by a change in the ocean or the whales themselves. How the fuck could the whales do it? That's the guy who wrote the story, marine biologist. Or did the number of whales in the population build to such a level that they competed with each other for food, and then again, a proportion of the population died off because they couldn't compete for the available resources? Like you're not talking about chasing around fucking fish, a school of fish, and whoever eats it survives and who don't dies. You're talking about the entire ocean. You're talking about the sediment. Now, gray whales will just suck up the mud on the ocean floor. That's what they do. And they filter it out through their baleen, right, or through their filtration system. And they only eat the copepods and the microscopic animals, the invertebrates without the backbones, like little tiny shrimp and that. So, like, the whole ocean health is dependent on. It's not like, even if there was a huge population, which there wasn't, but to be the most evil we notice are the people that will say this stuff here. Or the population got such a thing that the ocean couldn't support them, so it's natural selection. Like, you can't have half the fucking population emaciated and the other half not. It just doesn't work that way. It's an ocean. It's not like you're fucking stuck in a community and you're dependent on handouts or something. He's a pathologist at the Marine Mammal Center. Again, these are the most evilest people we've ever come across. Just heartless. Do you know what Fukushima broke the food chain? Every fucking one of these knows the food chain was broken by Fukushima radioactive fallout. Noah, the most unlikable people on the entire planet. Investigation recorded, well, after the United Nations, of course, 690 dead whales since January the 1st, 2019. Research suspect the true number is thousands more than that. Most whales die at sea and sink to the floor, far beyond the sight or reach of humans. Ocean State, like any university telling you something, you immediately have to doubt whatever the fuck it is they're telling you. How did we ever get to that point? Right? You can't trust a university, so how the hell did we get to this point? They're 100% going to lie to you. It's not some of them, every fucking one of them. They're going to lie. Estimate the gray whale population was reduced by half during the most recent mortality event. It's not a mortality event, it's a starvation. The food chain is fucking broken. It's every species, not just fucking gray whales or whales, it's every species. Population is 14,000 down from 27,000 or so. That's a big drop. Well, it's actually over 18,000 would have died in that same period. And they don't account for 14,000. At the end of the story, that's basically what they throw out. That's a big drop. Someone drop you on your fucking head, you piece of shit. By Susan Rust. So how, like, you go to university, become a journalist, and you write 6 or 7 or 10 paragraphs, and then you take your children and your family on fucking vacations, worldwide cruises, and go up to your cabin in the summertime, and your children are in all the sports and activities for writing a couple of fucking paragraphs. No, for telling a fucking whopping lie. For writing other articles that bring in complacent people, so that if you know them and end up having a conversation with them, you'll feel like fucking pulling the brain out of your ears because they're so fucking stupid. Because they read these stupid idiots fucking media. A gray whale carcass on Kodiak, Alaska in September 2021. But you can look at the fucking tail, you can see it's severely emaciated. Of the 61 whales they examined, the cause of death in just over half is what they determined the deaths of. 16 were severely emaciated or likely died of starvation. And 11 died of blunt force trauma, but would have died of starvation if they didn't get hit by a ship. Although 2 of these whales were also extremely underweight. Now, how the fuck could you have a percentage of the whales emaciated, but the other percentage is not, when they're eating the same food and traveling at the same time? How the fuck does that work again? And it takes a year or two to become emaciated. And there's no precedence for this. Ship strikes killed every fucking one of them, Dana. It's like, your neighbor's loved ones dies, and they died of cancer because they lived within proximity to a nuclear power plant, or they ate food grown within proximity to a nuclear power plant. And he died of terrible cancer, and bless their hearts. And then, anyway, the neighbors, they finally get their death certificate, and it says they died of ship strikes. It's the same fucking thing. It's simply not true. 18 whales were considered emaciated. 27 were considered thin. 9 were average, not fucking healthy, and 2 were fat. Really, 2 were fucking fat. Out of 61 whales were fat. Not normal. And 46 of them were fucking emaciated. Three-quarters of them were emaciated. Some of them were normal. How the fuck can some of them be normal? And they're all eating the same food at the same fucking time on the same journey and doing the same journeys. None of the babies survived the return trips, and instead of having 1,600 babies a year, they were having maybe 80, which we didn't see any evidence of that. We seen the evidence was showing around 60, and none of those calves survived the migratory trip because they were born to emaciated moms. And 2 were fat. These are just the worst humans imaginable to reach stuff like this. You gotta be the lowest form of life just to get a job at this fucking media anyway. But you gotta be the lowest form of fucking life to write a story like that. You gotta be the worst human imaginable. You shouldn't be allowed to have children. Your children should be taken away from every one of you, you fucking scumbags. You fucking scum. Oh, avian flu currently circulating around the globe is one example. Like, what kind of fucking low life have you got to be to say something like that? Really, what kind of fucking low life? And they're living big gated communities. They drive big luxury vehicles. They have summer homes. Their children are at bursaries from the industry so they can go to college to take over their job and continue the lies and fucking manipulations. Like, social engineering is just evil stuff. Only evil people go to university, and they go to university to get those fucking jobs because they know they exist. All you do is tell a lie, they make herds of money, don't have to do nothing, just be a scumbag for their whole life and live happily ever after. It's like Gordon Edwards here in Canada, the head of the anti-nuclear coalition in Ontario. Evil fucking prick. Was killing hundreds of sea lions and dozens of dolphins along the southern California coast. Ship strikes. Gotta be ship strikes. It can't be anything else. It's gotta be ship strikes. You know I'm right. Hang on. You don't put the word C in my fucking computer. Telephone book. The fuck is this? Try it again. I guess my photos and sea lions. Shocking, boy. There we go. What do we got here? 100% death rates of baby seals. There's such degenerates. Every time I hear the word professor and academic, you're thinking of chicken neck serial killers, right? 100% death rates of baby seals in California. None survived 2016. Starving. Suffering from a shortage of food in the Pacific fucking Ocean. Extremely thin. We call it emaciation because we're good people. They call it thin because they're fucking evil fucks. Massive die-off of sea creatures from California to Alaska. Animals are starving as the food chain continues to collapse. 2017. Mass starvation events plagued the West Coast. The deaths are really quite troubling. Dead animals litter the California beaches. There was no domoic acid. Back then, there was no bird flu. Bullshit, lies. They're just telling the story. Graveyard of washed up sea lives. Alarming phenomenon. Influx of malnourished, emaciated creatures. We're starting to worry, said the fucking crazies. The animals are starving to death. Covered in sores. I'm stuttering now. Stunted growth, weak immune systems. Mysterious cancers are killing sea lions. The bones are turning. They never got fucking cancer before. Why did they get cancer after Fukushima, nuclear meltdown, radioactive fallout buried the whole fucking planet, I wonder? Bones are turning to mush inside of just masses of yellow, cancerous tissues. Animals are dying at an alarming rate. I don't see fucking bird flu right there. I don't see domoic acid in any of this. Brain-rotting toxins. It's the worst year we've ever seen. Mass deaths of sea lions, dolphins, birds. Just trying to blame it on anything. 100% death rates of baby seals in California coast. None survived. They're starving. It takes a long time for the animals to starve. They're typically such big animals, right? With whales, it's a year or two, or even longer. Sickened animals, unlike anything doctors ever seen. They're eating themselves from the inside. Cancers, livers, pancreas, intestines are shut down, infested with parasites, immune to antibiotics. Unprecedented catastrophe that caused the loss of 200,000 sea lions. Journalists, nobody even talks about Fukushima anymore, and there's almost no more fish. The ocean is dying. It's terrifying. We're preparing for the worst. I was out doing research expeditions during all of this. Alarming signs of oceanic distress on the West Coast. Records numbers of stranded seal pups, nearly 2,000% normal levels. Bags of skin and bones, emaciated. 2015. In our 40-year history, we've never seen anything like it. 2015. Bizarre die-off along the West Coast. An animal emergency. Babies being found severely emaciated, sickened by parasites. The time of seals and sea lions. Just the tip of the iceberg. Seals and sea lions shouldn't have any wrinkles. Should be really plumb, eh? Researchers link delayed blue whale migration past Timor to a warming ocean. These are the pygmy blue whales. And as soon as you're looking at that spine, that's fucking starvation. You can even see the peanut head, despite the fact that it's underwater. You can still see it, it's so blatant. When pygmy blue whales, among the biggest animals on the planet, the second biggest, migrating past Timor, they get up to 300,000 pounds. Last year, researchers were alarmed to see the large group of migratory animals emaciated. Means they're starving to death. And you can see the peanut head on that one, and you can see the spine, and the rib cages are protruding out of the body. Shoulder blades are protruding. We're also seeing an impact on the actual health of the animals. Skinny whales with visible ribs and vertebrae and backbones. A worrying trend among the pygmy blue whales in the Timor-Leste water. Skinny whales with visible ribs, vertebrae, and that's over the past 3 years. And that was 2023. So they're talking about all the way back to 2020. The industry's crazy, eh? The industry's batshit crazy. And they're fucking dangerous batshit crazy on top of that. That's the whole thing about this story is these are very dangerous people because we rely on them for information and they don't tell it to you. And so they leave you vulnerable to the surprise of the reality that eventually you're stuck with, which is all the whales are fucking emaciated. Like all of them, every species, not just fucking blue whales or gray whales. God forbid you have a conversation about it. Well, you know, if I come out and say they're dying of ship strikes, I got fucking 500,000 people on my show. I rake in more donations than I'll make in 5 years of doing what I'm doing now in just 1 2-hour show, right? All I gotta do is be a fucking piece of shit, like all your favorite YouTubers out there, in the alternative media, I should say, who understands Fukushima's happened, won't talk about it. A 78-foot blue whale weighing over 100 tons. It's not 100 fucking tons. You creepy fucker. That's the furthest thing from 100 tons. It might be 30 tons. That'll be on a great day. And it should weigh fucking a lot more than that. We don't usually see blue whales. They're not even on our radar for whale watch. Whale watch. Oregon Park and Recreation Department Ocean Shore Specialist. The emaciated whale was dead for about 2 weeks. The blubber layer was emaciated 4 inches or less. A healthy blue whale has blubber up to 12 inches. So even 4 inches of blubber means they're emaciated. The whales we're seeing have no blubber now. It weighed 100 tons and is half buried. Well, like when I'm looking at that picture, that's not 100 fucking tons on any day of the week. When you look at the back end of the whale, it's missing 100,000 fucking pounds or more. 36-foot emaciated sea creature. Why are everything fucking emaciated after Fukushima, I wonder? Because it's like bananas and walking in sunshine and potato chips and sleeping next to somebody or climbing a fucking mountain. Is that why? Yeah. Domain was saying they killed every duck where they lived. Tonight I noticed there's a spot, we talked about this last year, that I was doing research on, where there's a couple of thousand seagulls and probably 500 kittiwakes. And we seen a tent out there one day, and about 3 or 4 weeks later I noticed there was no birds. So I dropped by Fisheries and Oceans, but he was getting off work. But anyway, he had a quick chat with me. And then all of a sudden he stopped chatting with me because this car rushed up behind me and called him over. But he had just said to me, he said, I don't know why they're missing, but I do know there was biologists there, and they were putting a toxin on the eggs because there was considered too many birds. But that was a sanctuary, by the way. And now, this summer, last year there was, or the year before retirement was dead. And last year there was no birds. And this year there was there was some, but they weren't in the normal spots. They were in this little tiny area, which is underwater twice a day. And this year there was maybe 700-800 seagulls and probably 100 kittiwakes there. And a kittiwake looks like a small seagull. And tonight when I was going by, there's none there. And yesterday morning when I went past it, there was none there. And so they must have come back and poisoned them too. There's a bird sanctuary. Because they have to go to McDonald's now to get something to eat because there's nothing in the fucking tidal zones because the nuclear industry has broke the food chain. This is another gray whale. Look how emaciated that back end is. Emaciated creature, sea creature. It's a fucking whale. Journalists are the lowest forms of life. Rare blue whale washes up on Oregon beach. This is 2015. This was severely emaciated. Mate described the whale as emaciated and had a very sick blubber layer. A very sick blubber layer. And you can see him peeling it back there. Let me go over to my special window. Is it up? No. Not good. I can't find. Yeah, there. I just want to. Let me zoom back here. Very sick blubber layer. It was emaciated. So you can see him peeling it back probably pretty good, hopefully. If you got a big screen, you can anyway. So that blubber is about 3 or 4 inches. Federal funding for public media has been eliminated. That's probably the best part of that whole fucking story right there. It's coming back to hunt them. Thank goodness. Emaciated gray whales spotted swimming feet from Seal Beach coastlines, 2017. So gray whales in 2017 were showing up emaciated. That's 9 years ago. Nearly 400 gray whales had died off the coast since 2019, right? And the other story is 700 for the same year. Scientists say the die-off, which is entering the third year, is likely due to a scarcity of food. Like you wouldn't say that, isn't it? We've never heard that kind of connotations before, and they've never framed it that way before. Pre-Fukushima, if this was happening, you would say the food chain must be broken or is broken because of the numbers. That's how you would have described it. You wouldn't play this fucking game, pathetic game. Reports of emaciated gray whales have started to come in as the whales arrive from their breeding grounds off Baja, California, Mexico. If the trend continues, this is with a third hard year in a row for the North Pacific gray whale populations. With hundreds turning up dead, most scientists are calling an unusual mortality event. And then they're quoting Gizmo, a known public relation firm. They really are unlikable fucking scumbags. It's not just gray whales. Well, you won't be no more gray whales coming ashore. They're gone. They haven't announced it officially yet, but we cover it all the time. And if there was all the gray whales this year, for 6 months, there was 150 that showed up on the coastline. Every fucking one of them was severely emaciated. Which meant they were alive when they showed up on the coastline because otherwise they would have sank. And the reason they're getting hit by ships and entanglement post-Fukushima is because they're looking for a beach to wash up on, to swim up on and die. Because they can't keep their blowhole out of the water, they can't get any sleep, so they're going around with like dementia-type cognitive abilities. It's every species, not just fucking grey whales. There's no way how can I know all of this and they don't know that? How can I prove all of this and they can't prove any of it? They can't even acknowledge it. That is every species of whales. How the fuck does that work? How does that work? Look at how emaciated this blue whale is. Look at this brise whale. We're always going to end up here. This study here, geological evidence of tsunamis in the past 3,800 years in the coastal lowlands in the central Fukushima prefecture. What they're talking about is when you look at the lowlands, 200-300 foot range from the ocean up, they were seeing evidence of tsunamis that was undeniable for the last 3,800 years. So why would you build your nuclear reactors on the fucking fault lines? 70 kilometers from the fault lines is on the fucking fault lines. It's the same thing. With a 3,800 year history of tsunamis. Right, that's a 3,800 year history of tsunamis. Why would you do that? I was saying to myself earlier, I shouldn't do a show tonight because I'm liable to say things because I'm angry with what I saw yesterday. And turns out I was right. It turns out I was oh so right. Turns out I was all too right. Unless an academic study, it doesn't get recognized, it doesn't get acknowledged, which is absurd. If you look at the body of work we've done here, I'm not going to brag. Oh, well, actually I am. We're the biggest. We're the most prolific producers of documentation post-Fukushima, and probably in history too. There's no one produces more information than we do. We're not doing this because it's fucking easy or fun. Well, I suppose it might be fun for some people that are fucked up like I am, are poisoned with it and sick of being silent. I have a folder of declassified nuclear test films, and each one is counted that way. So you got declassified U.S. nuclear test films number 00, and that's this one here. I don't know if it's going to be the right formats anymore. I'll put it on for kicks now. Because they knew since the 40s the ultimate outcome of nuclear power. Let me play a few moments of this stuff.
Seconds separators from the detonation.
People out stood up like idiots. That's not what I was looking for, but we eventually got it. Like, I got all the presentations they done for the media in Japan, and we were slowly going through all of it. But then we had a massive amount of whales dying, and we started covering that. And so far this year, we've done around 34, 35 videos about that. Let's look at the A-10 Warthog for a minute for people. So an A-10 Warthog shoots 1.5 tons of these bullets a minute. a ton and a half, 3,000 pounds a minute. And each one of these is a dirty bomb. They're not tipped, they're not coated. And so United States Navy, they go through a lot of this stuff, and the military, Air Force, and everybody else. So they produce so much of it that if they don't use it right away, they got more coming out the gate and they need to get rid of whatever they got. And so they regularly look at questions of how to dispose of. This one was 35.7 million depleted uranium munitions with a core of depleted uranium. Well, these cores are not tipped and coated. These are pure uranium, plutonium. They're contaminated with the full range because they're gone through a chain reaction. And then the Geiger counters they're using for these people only looks at gamma. It can't see curium isotopes, for instance, or the plutonium, or americiums, or neptuniums, or strontiums. It can only see curium, and it's not very good at that on purpose. So when you shoot this as pyrophoric, it catches fire as it's going through the air, and you're distributing radioactive fallout. These are dirty bombs. They don't need just to hit the target to become a dirty bomb, which is to become a brutal dirty bomb, because when you hit their targets, they explode in every direction. They're pyrophoric, so they're basically liquefied. And they contaminate all your farmers' fields, all your water, and all your genetic food supply now is permanently contaminated and is producing different genetics than the 1,000-year-old heirloom seeds that you normally would have used. So, but how do you dispose of 35.8 million dirty bombs? Well, clearly, it's not going into a deep geological repository per se. So where the fuck is it going? That should be one of the most frightening questions you can imagine, because there's so much evil people in that industry that will take advantage of that. They're going to get paid enormous amount of money to get rid of it. And getting rid of it in their versions is how do they contaminate your food and your water. So we're 15 years down the road and the entire planet is still not aware that Fukushima had 4 reactor buildings melt down because they're told it never happened, that everything that got out went into a tank by United Nations. Oh, no, it's all... IAEA says worked with Japan in 2023, with Japan, South Korea, with Taiwan, with China, and the IAEA, aka United Nations, came out and said nothing got out of the reactors. There is no meltdown. So officially, that never happened, right there. Officially, that never happened. Because the enemy of humanity, United Nations, they're the absolute enemy of humanity in the 8 million species, 9 million, 10 million species. There's a lot of species we haven't discovered. The fuel rods of Fukushima No. 2 reactor were fully exposed in a third explosion. Like when the fuel rods are exposed, they catch fire immediately, and that's the inventories are burning off decades of reactor cores right alongside of it. So it'll flash, boil all the water in the fuel pool, then all the fuel rods are exposed for the last 30 years, and they all instantly now start catching fire and then blow up because of the hydrogen. I'm sorry, because of the pressure. This is in the fuel pools, but the reactors are the same thing. If they don't get water, they'll heat up and then they explode. And it looks like this. These are not hydrogen explosions, these are pressure explosions. They told you hydrogen because they don't want you to appreciate that these, if they get no coolant, they'll build up pressure and explode. And you know it's a pressurized explosion when you look at the detonation itself. So on one side of reactor 2 is reactor 3 and reactor 4. On the other side of it is reactor 1, it blew up. And in the middle is reactor 2. So officially today, now I just done my last video was on reactor 2, where they're claiming they're in the fucking fuel pool, getting the inventories out of something we know is long gone. They've done the exact same thing for reactor 3 and 4. And the only reason they're getting away with it is because your universities and your medias are perfectly happy to cut your fucking throats and lie to you. And these types of lies are lethal for your children and your parents and your loved ones and your communities and your planet and the species and your pets and everything else. It's idiotic. You got nothing to lose by not getting in their fucking faces, by the way. And you have everything to gain. You have nothing to lose by going after these fuckers. I shouldn't even call them that. They're fucking weirdos. These are the weirdest fucking people you're ever going to come across. And then look at the censorship on me, 12 people. 17 likes. Why? Because I swear. So I'm a weirdo, am I? Because I swear. I'm the only fucking person on the planet that swears. They're fucking idiots. Well, first off, the people that we're talking about, they don't swear. They have no aggression in them whatsoever. They're too fucking... They're like functional autism, basically, right? They went to university and they got their degree and their master's even, but they still wouldn't go looking for a job. And they got another degree, and they still wouldn't go get a fucking job. And they got another degree. And the nuclear industry is like, that's perfect. They're compartmentalized, and they're fucking stupid as fuck. But they're compartmentalized with a good education. We can use them. We can weaponize them against humanity. And that's what they've been fucking doing for 80 years. These people are not overachievers. They're just fucking idiots that are really good at memorizing the books. They don't have any critical thinking skills. First batch, this is reactor 3 to your left. Now, this depiction is fucking 150 feet above that stump. So why are they showing you this picture? Why is all the media coming here showing you that picture? The entire nuclear core ejected into the environment. Well, how can you eject the entire nuclear core into the environment with the fuel pool at the top of it and not eject the fuel pool too? How pacifically does that fucking work? Let's look at the video. Let me show you the video. Is she party? So this is reactor 3. That's the explosion, the pulse pressure explosion. And watch now, you're going to see a couple of great big chunks start to fall back down really quick, especially on the left-hand side over there. That's the fuel pool. Now that smoke you're looking at, what is that smoke going to be created? Look at the top of the building. So when you look at the top of the reactors, this is the fuel pool right around right there. That's a cast, allegedly they were taken out of it. But the top of the building, those big chummies you're looking at, they're empty. They were added in after the building was built. They're for venting hydrogen out of the building. So there's nothing up there. There's nothing up there to create that plume. So the only thing that can create that plume is the fuel cores from the fuel pools are exposed to oxygen and they immediately catch fire. So that whole plume becomes fuel particulates. So the fuel particulates within 20 days, this is April the 7th, so less than 30 days later, it's covering the entire planet. But that's fuel particulates. Because you particulated 36 reactor cores. These are massive reactor cores, by the way, pure uranium, pure plutonium. So each of the particulates are splitting atoms. They're not, like an atom is pulsing energy in explosion every direction, every second for however long that particular isotope. And you remember the biggest byproduct of radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes. So you had a plume of fuel particulates that covers the entire planet in 20 to 30 days. And each particulate is splitting atoms for millions of years. So each particulate is a disease factory for any of the 8 million species. Now, but also, because you're talking about gammas and alphas and neutrons and betas, covering the entire planet, and everything's within proximity to each other. And so each of them are pulsing energy of gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas. Every square meter of surface on the entire planet and ocean floors are pulsing energy at the speed of light in many different isotopes. So when they pulse energy, they hit each other. Right? One gamma is pulsing energy at the speed of light this way, and neutrons pulsing speed of light, they come up, and they all hit each other. Now, gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas don't mingle with each other. When they hit each other, they don't mingle. When they hit each other, they bang into each other, almost at the speed of light, almost at the speed of light. They hit each other, and that's an X-ray. But because you're doing this, and there's so much of it, you have a chain reaction on your entire planet going on, but you can't perceive it. You can't see it or smell it or hear it or feel it or taste it or touch it or pick it up or throw fucking rocks at it. Like, you can't perceive it. But you actually have a chain reaction going on for 80 years on your planet. And that's how you boil waters with these isotopes. But just because they're not in the containment boiling water to power 1 million homes and businesses, don't mean they're not producing electricity and energy that's permanently causing adverse effects. So every blade of grass and every piece of pollen, every tree leaf, everything is saturated with these isotopes now that are pulsing energy at the speed of light. That's pure energy. And you have this full body X-ray for all the species in your meadows and your forest. And that's going to destroy, and has mostly destroyed, the fungus and the bacteria and the biota in your soil. Right, which we predicted that a long time ago, when we predicted you would see an increase of flash floods and forest fires in particular would start being really noticeable. But we didn't dream for a second it was going to get to the point that it got. And also road rage and air rage originally, we were looking strongly forward, right? We would expect to see an increase in air rage because there's less oxygen up there, so it would really manifest quite quickly. But particularly road rage and stupid crimes, you would see statistical increases of stupid crimes. And the dumbing down. Another thing you're doing is you're destroying the ability of the planet to produce oxygen. So when you add that into the mix, radiation causes a lack of oxygen in all the species in humans because you're displacing red blood cells with white blood cells permanently, because when you get the isotopes in your body, it's pulsing energy every second, and it's wrecking your chromosomes, your cells, your DNA, and everything. Your body tries to repair it every second. White blood cells can't keep up with that and attack the source. And as you bioaccumulate more, so if you got 1,000 isotopes in you, you're not going to drop dead or something right away from that kind of dose. But what happens is your body is producing more white blood cells than oxygen blood cells per se, which is red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen nutrition. So you're making irrational decisions because you have a lack of oxygen permanently. So if you smoke or you drink on top of that, then you get yourself in some real trouble, because now you're depleting you're already depleted oxygen levels, and this is true for all the species. Now, when you're having a forest fire, you're going to liberate 80 years of sequestered isotopes back into the environment, because you can't destroy it, like by incinerating it, for instance. And you're just going to liberate it, and which means it's back to its natural form. It's no longer sequestered in your trees or your plants or whatever. Now it's liberated back into the environment as the anthropogenic man-made atom, and that's not created by the solar system. So there's no species on the planet with an autoimmune trigger that can defend against that. Is that too much? Is that fucking hard to understand or something? So when you look at Reactor 3 explosion and the stump that remains, how is it the fucking piece of shit academic community didn't acknowledge that Reactor 3 fuel pools were gone? How could you fucking deny that? And Arnie Gunderson and Helen Caldicott and Christopher Busby's and the rest of them were the first ones to come out over and over and over and pretend that everything was okay. And everybody was directed to them. And every one of their videos get 30, 40, 50, 100,000 views. Every fucking one of them. Even today. Because their job is to lie, right? So this is not a system that is sustainable. Pretending this is not happening is not a fucking solution. It's the worst possible case scenario. It's unbelievable the police haven't got involved in this fucking stuff. But it's not illegal to poison you with radiation. Your government doesn't have the authorities to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. Otherwise, they couldn't murder you in your hospitals. Oh, doctor, please, doctor, there's got to be something you can do. My loved one has cancer. Oh, there's not what you can do. What about radiation? Well, if you sign this piece of paper saying we're not responsible. Oh, absolutely, doctor, I trust you. All right, bring little Timmy down to the hospital tomorrow. The Canadian government has $900,000 guaranteed to kill you with of radiation. Won't cost you a nickel. They'll be happy to fucking murder you. And that money goes right to the nuclear industry. So how can you claim that inside that building it fucking looks like that? How does that actually work? How can you claim at the top of that building that it's going to create a plume like that with the material of the top of the building? How does that work? It can't. How can all the medias, this is just a fraction of them, get away with pretending they're 150 feet above a building that doesn't exist? Well, the only way you can do it is if all the media agree to lie. If all the universities agree to remain silent and support the lie. The proper name for a university is School of Mass Destruction. The minute they offer a nuclear class of any type, they should be reclassified as weapons of mass destruction and schools of mass destruction. Because if the universities don't know the difference, they shouldn't be allowed to exist. If the universities, which are the ones going to promote this technology, there's an interesting story in, I think this was 2013, 2014. This is a video, this is like 70 times normal speed. In 6 places, the steam comes, so-called steam, the radioactive emissions coming out of the ground, were at over 10 sieverts per hour. So what that means is if you walk through that, your organs melt. Like you'll still be alive for a little while, but then you died. And a little while being that day, you died that day. If you stayed there for 2 minutes, you died within an hour. If you're there for 5 minutes, you died within 15 minutes. Like 3 to 4 sieverts will do that to you. 10 sieverts. Now the steam coming out of the ground at 10 sieverts, as that accumulates, you're in thousands of sieverts. That's a no man's land, see? And that steam will land on everything and contaminate everything. It's not steam. It's just at different temperatures. When it came out of the ground, the air's a bit cooler, so it looks like steam, but it's not fucking steam. It's a lethal death plume. And the death plume doesn't go away. It just lands on everything, or it gets into the environment and goes somewhere else and contaminates and poisons and kills everything. This fucking industry is the most evil of evil we have ever come across. This was alive 5 days before they took that picture. The only way this... I can't remember the name of it. Still burnt there from yesterday's madness. Climate change will affect gender ratio among newborn scientists, says. No, radioactive fallout. They do sex ratio studies on radioactive fallout. A recent study in Japan, of all fucking places, which is going to have the worst birth ratio, sex ratio studies. Hang on. Dear wonder. These are fucking lunatics, eh? I'll just give you a quick explanation of it, actually. The dark and dirty one, but hang on. Oh. It always gets more confusing, doesn't it? All right. A little complicated. Schizophrenia from radioactive fallout. Because you have a lack of oxygen. So it looks like schizophrenia, but it's a lack of oxygen. The influence of post-Chernobyl fallout and birth defects, abortion rates in Austria. Trends in human sex odds at birth in Europe and Chernobyl after Chernobyl's nuclear power plant accident in Europe. So to look at the sex odds ratio is more males than females is what they're looking for. And the reason they're looking for it is because they were sure that everybody in Europe was contaminated. So in the birth registries, they would see a statistical increase of males and less females, which would have been true for all species, not just humans. Prenatal loss of 400 male fetuses in the Czech Republic. Secondary sex ratio and trends in associated gender-specific births near nuclear facilities in France and Germany. Congenital abnormality registries in Belarus, public health impacts of Chernobyl. Fallout from Chernobyl accident, overall cancer incidences in Finland. Well, Finland is not in Chernobyl. Down syndrome and time clusters in Belarus. Down syndrome in Scotland, post-Chernobyl. Okay, bear with me. Now, if you look at some of these studies, this is sheep farms in Ireland, Scotland, and the United Kingdom were closed. So there's around 9,000, it was actually 9,400 farms, that's the official number, were closed up to 3,000 kilometers away in Ireland, Scotland, and the United Kingdom after. Now, if you have a big plume from a forest fire, does it only look for farms? Or does the plume just cover the whole part of that country? Because radiation can do the same thing. So to only talk about sheep farms, and we're talking about all of them, 9,400 sheep farms in Ireland, Scotland, and the United Kingdom, it meant you had to contaminate all of Europe to get there in the first place. And when you're talking about something up to 3,000 kilometers away, where you're closing sheep farms, 9,400 of them, for several decades because of radioactive fallout, which meant you were not supposed to drink the water in Europe. You were supposed to evacuate Europe. Because radiation doesn't just land on sheep farms. Can we agree on that? Is it rational to agree on that? But so then think about another thing that they're going to do. When you have a nuclear accident, hundreds of thousands of academics are going to apply for funding, and they're going to get the money. And they're going to study everything they can and so each of these studies are meant to downplay the radioactive fallout that they found. And so highly radioactive Chernobyl deposits in Scandinavian glaciers, which is farmland water, basically. Chernobyl dirty legacy lives on. Thyroid cancers in children and young adults in north of England. And trying to blame it on Chernobyl. They had their own nuclear meltdown, right? Fallout disposition, which is radioactive fallout. And Monaco following Chernobyl. So all of this was meant to downplay in New York. Fallout, soil plant transfer of plutonium and americium in contaminated regions of Belarus. Now, if you know anything about Belarus and Chernobyl, that was That was the grain basket for a lot of the planet for grain. And this is a nuclear wasteland. So the stage war they got going there with Russia and Ukraine, the genocide, is a technology war. They wanted to develop they were going to be developing AI and drones and stuff like that. And so they needed a war to practice and get the kinks out of everything. And they can't get people to fight that kind of war, so they're going around doing what they call hard conscription, where they just show up with a truckload of soldiers and they jack someone off the side of the road, and they take them and put them out in fields with no training, and a drone will chase them around and blow them up. And so far this year, about 1 million people died that way by being chased by a drone until they were blown up. I know it sounds incredible, but I'll bring up a couple of examples for you. Excuse me. And this is evil, what we're talking about. You got to be evil to do this kind of stuff. I'm going to turn the audio off because most of the fucking idiots that are making this stuff, most of the here's a video for you. This is Zelensky. This is Zelensky when he was young. And now he's getting billions of dollars a year he's stealing, and tens to hundreds of billions of dollars a year to buy weapons from the biggest weapons producers on the planet. Can you imagine? Like, I got a whole collection of him. Here's another one of Zelensky. Before he was the prime minister, the president of the country. Like, he has no intelligence. And he's destroying everybody in that country. Here's some conscription where they just grab people, tear them out of their cars, they're holding them at gunpoint, and then they're going to take them. Right? They take them and they bring them to the military camps, and a week later, and I got videos here just too difficult to show you, right? Hang on a second. I don't want to show, because I got stuff here that is just, because I want to tell the story eventually. They're out in the open, the drone, he's like, please don't kill me. And the drone doesn't care, that's a drone. He's trying to talk to a drone. You have no shelter, and even if you do it, drone after drone will just ram into it and kill you. He's saying, kill these guys first, look. But he's hoping the drone doesn't see him, because what else are you supposed to do? You can't outrun the drone. You don't know what you're doing in the first place. You were jacked off the street and given the minimal supplies, and you're put out there exactly for this purpose. Just to be chased around and blown up. He drops a bomb down. Very graphic stuff, so if you don't want to watch it, I'll let you know when it's over. And so whoever's controlling the drone, look at him. Oh, let's finish blowing them up. This is cruel punishment. If this was a death chamber and they were doing stuff like this, where they just blow them up and then come back in, blow them up a couple more times, that would be considered cruel and unusual punishment, right? I just see a bomb drop behind him, didn't go off for some reason. They're going to jump on board as he's going past. What are you going to do, jump on the track? How's that fucking work? All these ultra soldiers, other soldiers are already dead and blowing up and smoking. He's going to try to jump in the back. Well, a drone will just fly right in the back. You got to be incredibly evil to take that kind of a job. There's really got to be something fucked up in your head. And he's hanging off the back of it. They're not going to stop because they're too easy of a target, right? There you go. Here's a drone going to chase him down. We've seen, like, the drones will go into the communities and just chase random people around. Getting in your tank is not going to fucking save you. There you go. And the thing with this is, you come in now with another drone and just ram into anybody that's still alive. That's what they have, an endless amount of drones. And most of them are being supplied from Ukraine by Eric Schmidt. I would love to see. Eric Schmidt likes to go into the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg Group meetings and stuff like that. All the activists should have drones. When Eric Schmidt shows up, all of them drones should be fucking chasing him around so he can have a little fucking taste of the other side of the equation. Because when you're building drones just to chase people around and blow them up that you know are just fucking victims, you're a fucking lowlife, buddy. No good running. Once that drone will stay up there and map out where everybody went, and it'll come in and whack every fucking body there. And that's an incendiary drone. Set body on fire, look. Oh, you're done. Where you think you're fucking going there, buddy? Run, run, rabbit, run. This is called a war, apparently, where you have drones chasing people around. They actually fucking toy with people. No fucking morals. And then universities and academics are... I'll show you another video now. These are one more. If you're not watching, I'll let you know when I finish. They'll hunt you down and kill you. Look, see the drone? Where are you going to go, buddy? The drones will just ram into you. And they're looking right at you. They have no problem shooting among all this. Imagine this. Look, he's just taking his time. He could have ran into him a dozen times. He just wanted to terrorize him for a little fucking bit. What kind of fucking animal think this is okay? This is what we should be doing with nuclear scientists, right? All nuclear scientists should be conscripted to go down there and be the tools. We don't fucking need them anymore. Nuclear industry's done. Marine scientists, we don't need them no more. We should fucking send all of them down there. Just sell them. Get like slave ships and fucking bring them down to Ukraine. To give to Zelensky, you probably get like $1,000 a head. It's easy money. Not like they're going to resist you. It's nuclear scientists and academics. They're fucking chicken necks. Like, come on, shit for brains, get on the boat. Radioactivity from cesium in plant drugs. So a lot of plants are grown to be drugs, and now they're contaminated. And they're grown in mature noble nuclear wasteland. And they're saying, well, we're putting potassium in the ground, so there shouldn't be any man-made radiation. And they'll type of cesium, because is cesium the biggest byproduct of radioactive fuel rods? No, it's curium isotopes. So they're saying cesium will displace the radiation, therefore now it's safe to use it for pharmaceutical. These are fucking monsters. And there's 4 people in that study. Look at that. All you do is come out and lie, and that's how you make your living. That's how all these academic studies are to make their living. And when you see A in the word cesium, that's British. What the fuck are British doing about in Greek lakes for? Well, tell lies. A nationwide increase in children, males, being born with one testicle, absent of one or both testicles from the scrotum. So why was there a nationwide, the entire country, having an increase of babies being born with one or no testicles? Cannot be diagnosed before birth and is not a factor that would influence a woman's decision to seek an abortion. It's a congenital disease. So this disease is considered suitable. It's not a fucking disease. It's not going to pass on to somebody else. Somebody without one testicle or both testicles go to school, they're not going to contaminate the other fucking students. This is a result of radioactive food and water and air. From 6 hospitals that were included in impact assessment survey database in Japan to estimate the discharge rate of surgeries before and after. 94 hospitals in Japan that participated. So nationwide increase in children born with one testicle. How many insects does it take to feed a hungry baby birds? It's a lot. It's around 5 million for 61 nests, I think it is. And 61 nests, over 5 million insects during 27 days or something. I forget now. So each bird will eat up to 720 insects a day, I think it is. I fucked up. I don't have the rest of it right there. Well, Fukushima broke the food chain worldwide. I have a whole, on my back porch and front porch, but on my back porch, you know, with the night light there, I have all kinds of spiders. They've been there all summer, all spring, all summer. And they're so cocky, they have the webs stretched out across my rails. So they're right out in the open, desperate. All the webs are deformed. And most of the webs got no spider web, got no insects in it whatsoever, or insect, I should say, because it's not insects. At best, they got like one insect in their webs. And so there's no insect-eating birds here all year. Otherwise, they would have snatched them. And they would have snatched them because they're trying to raise their fledglings. They need a lot of fucking insects every day. They would have been easy to get, see? Right? I always ask people that are having a conversation with me for some reason or another, like getting my hair cut or whatever, if they have their own home, and if they do you see many spiders? And they'll always they'll turn their head like, it's really interesting. Like, yeah, that's true, yeah, I do. I said, are they there all year long? She said, yeah, they drive me nuts, they're there the whole year. I said, you know why? Why? I said, because you have no more insect-eating birds. And like, their brain is going ding, 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 and it's starting to register for them. Because it's something that they can sympathize with. I said, now, when you go home, just walk, or tomorrow or the next day or whenever, you're in your garden, go out in your garden, and walk over to your trees and your plants and look for some spider webs. And if you don't find any, then ask yourself, why are they showing up on your house but not on your trees and plants? Wouldn't they find more insects on your trees and plants than they will on the side of your fucking house? I don't swear, but tonight we kind of got rid of those restrictions. So when you look at these two buildings, if I told you that I fixed those buildings with liquid glass, I patched up the holes with liquid glass. Now remember, these are nuclear meltdowns. You ain't patching up no fucking holes in a nuclear meltdown. And a story came out on April the 6th, March 11th. So 3 weeks later was the story. Fukushima reactor leak was plugged with liquid glass. What's that? Officials at the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan announced that radiation-contaminated water was no longer leaking, and I fucking hate that word, out of the damaged reactors there and was trickling into the ocean. Workers managed to plug the leaks, they said, with a mixture of sawdust and newspaper. That's what it looks like there. Sawdust and newspaper.
My understanding is on top of what
I made this 13 years ago.
Reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
So how many people think they're above the building to your left? None, right? Where the hell am I? Where did the data go? How many whales were killed by ship strikes in 2023 by 2023 worldwide? There's around 1,200 reports since the worldwide, the entire planet database was launched in 2007. It was 1,200 reports of whales and boats colliding. Not all of them would have died by any stretch of the imagination, right? So how is it 27,500 whales died of ship strikes of grey whales only, not counting the rest of the whales, but how did 27,500 whales die of ship strikes in just 5 fucking years? Because that's the official story for the last 5 years. Every whale was, it was probably a ship strike. But when you look at, say, the humpback whales, they acknowledge 7,000 died to death. Died to death. What the fuck does that mean, Dana? Starved to death. You weren't listening. It sounded that way because I was mumbling, but that prize whale, that probably took 1.5 years to be that emaciated. This prize whale probably took 2 or 2.5 years to be that emaciated. And I can't remember the last time I've seen such a low-quality picture. This was in India earlier this year. But there was a warning last year from the stupid media, scumbag media, just like the pygmy blue whales. Grey whale die-off, fear the starving. Grey whale die-off. No, the extermination. Grey whales now died, are gone this year officially, as of by July, even June, I guess. But by July, that was the end of it. We never got another report. And every report from January to June, which was 150, they were emaciated. But then we got no more reports. And they were running slow on the migration route, so we still should have heard about them every day or two. We haven't heard a single fucking thing now in 5 weeks. The reason is the grey whales are actually gone. They were the first to go. Because they're bottom sediment, where all the radiation, not all, but a lot of radiation is settling is on the bottom, right? So when they're filtering that radioactive mud to get their crustaceans or their invertebrates without the backbones, they're getting the biggest doses of the bioaccumulation, I should say. Thousands of grey whales migrating north from Baja, California in 2025 are in such poor shape, scumbags / researchers, that due to changing feeding conditions, well, if the feeding conditions hasn't changed in 1 million generations, what changed it, you fucking scumbag? They were in poor shape last year when they began a 12,000-mile migration to breeding. 12,000 miles is there and back again from the Baltic Sea, Alaska. They have bulging ribs with shoulder blades and vertebrae visible even from the shoreline. No fucking shit. There's some grey whales there, look. I think this picture here, let me get it out of the way. Everybody should have a screen capture of that picture right there. And then printed out, or printed out. The reason I say printed out because it's pretty big then, right? And then, if you want to do something bizarre, go out with a camera and just ask random people, do you think these whales died of starvation or ship strikes? And make a whole bunch of little videos and see how many people think they died of fucking ship strikes. And the number is going to be 0 people who are going to say they died of fucking ship strikes. Unless you're talking to pro-nuclear fuckheads. Emaciated grey whale spotted off Ogden Point could be part of a mortality event. Well, what the fuck else is it going to be part of? Research. Every time I hear the word research now, I just want to spit in their fucking face. Not fucking researchers. They're the scum of fucking humanity. They're the scourge of humanity. They're the worst thing that's ever happened to our fucking planet and to their children and their friends and their families too. They're the worst fucking thing. And then this is the picture to show you. That's fucking severely emaciated grey whale. You don't need anybody to tell you it's emaciated. You just one look at it. That's the peanut head, the shoulder blades, the spinal column sticking straight up through the fucking ear. They're looking for a beach to get up on so they can fucking die because they got no choice. Using a drone. Causes of mortality include ship strikes and entanglement. That's not ship strikes. Right? How can all the fucking whales die of starvation, even have the word entanglement or ship strike in the same fucking story? How does that work? Social engineering, see? You got to be exceptionally fucking evil. Marine scientists can't explain is the unusual number of whales that have washed up in the last 2 years. Why not? Because you refuse, the nuclear industry can never, ever be in the equation under any circumstances. What year was that again? 2021. The leading hypothesis is that climate change had led to the reduction in the whale's primary food. No, radioactive fallout broke the entire planet's fucking food chain. You horrific fucking scumbag. I can't be civil when it comes to these fucking people. I just can't. I can no longer do it. I don't have what it takes to be civil to these fucking scumbags anymore. 220 million atoms per liter of iodine-129. Well, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is not fucking iodine. And I can tell you one thing, right, with a 50 million year half-life, it only got a little bit of energy. It doesn't pulse very far, is what do you mean by that? Well, these numbers are big enough to saturate your body with huge numbers. So eventually every one of them becomes a tumor. So if you drink a liter of this, you got 220 million tumors growing inside your fucking body. You got 220 million atoms pulsing energy in your fucking body. So imagine filling up your fucking hot tub with 1,000 liters of this shit. People were. You can't filter this kind of stuff. It's the size of an atom. Everything has to be in a containment because you can't fucking filter it. You can bioaccumulate it in the filter. That's true. You don't want to, particularly your drinking water. That's what's happening to people. Your filter, your water filter in your home is your fucking enemy. Because it's bioaccumulating radiation. And so say you would have a couple of millisieverts, a liter of water in your liter of water. Well, the filter might be fucking 50 or 500 millisieverts after a short while. So the water that you're putting through the filter is going to come out the other end even fucking more radioactive than it started off with. Former top International Atomic Energy Agency idiot, Fukushima is a catastrophe for every citizen of the world. Well, how can it be a catastrophe for every citizen of the world without being a catastrophe for every species on the entire fucking planet. How does that work again? Oh, Dana's swearing I can't listen to him. Well, fuck off, then. You should be swearing more than I am. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like the farmers harvesting food right alongside of thousands of one-ton bags of radiation in your fucking picture from the media. And he knows he's harvesting it to sell it because he's not wearing a stupid, useless paper fucking suit. Those 14 prefectures I got marked for you over there are the prefectures that were banned by 55 countries for over a decade. But Japan currently has more tourists every year than it ever had pre-Fukushima. Because somebody got to eat all that fucking rice. Canada removed all restrictions after fucking 93 days, while 55 countries banned it for a decade. Tell me that's not fucking evil. The United States was hit with extremely large peaks of Fukushima radioactive material, a significant amount of plutonium. Radioactivity was measured globally and blanketed the entire Northern Hemisphere. So this is neptunium, but that decays to plutonium every 2.5 days. 50% of neptunium becomes plutonium and does that 10 times. And that means those plumes you're looking at of 20 days and 21 days, well, it's just one more cycle and everything is plutonium. So after that, you're looking at plutonium covering the entire planet. That's what you're looking at. Let me explain to you why that's fucking bad. Here we go. So plutonium on 144 beagle dogs and puppies, it killed all of them. The 93 dogs died of bone tumors. Lung tumors in 46 dogs killed them. And then, which was the second most common cause. Do you see an increase in lung tumors? And liver tumors were found in 20 dogs with a cause of death in only 2 dogs. I'm screwed this up. Okay, so the human kidneys are 50 times less efficient than the animal kidneys that remove plutonium. So you're 50 times more likely to die than the dogs, and the dogs all died. The biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is not plutonium. This is the United States Navy, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, New Mexico. That's the U.S. Navy. Curium isotopes are the major byproducts in the radiated nuclear fuel, nuclear reactor fuel. That's true for all reactors worldwide. And so forget about alpha. Fuck alpha. Curium isotopes are the major byproduct. Curium isotopes need lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium does. You're 50 times more likely to die than the dog because the dog is 50 times more efficient at removing plutonium from your kidneys. So you're 50 times more likely. And the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes. Not plutonium. Plutonium killed all the animals. And curium needs lead shielding 20 times thicker. Curium is the biggest byproduct. So what are you more worried about? Cesium or plutonium or curium? Well, if you're smart, you're worried about curium. You gotta be worried. If you're smart, you're worried about them all, actually. But so when you see 220 million atoms per liter, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is not iodine-129, it's curium isotopes. It breaks my fucking heart, but and there's no need. And if somebody doesn't tell the story, then nobody tells the story. Because if you go look at the nuclear industry, they're going to cut your fucking throat every step of the way. Every chance they get, they're going to cut your fucking throat. Every fucking step of the way. No matter what they tell you, what story you fucking read, they're going to lie literally in every facet of the story. Every sentence or paragraph is a incredibly correct. I was going to say something real nasty, but I'm not going to do that. I'm better than them. Don't mind me fucking around here. Curium isotopes are the major byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod. So we should be worried about curium isotopes, right? Emaciated gray whale washed up on a beach not too long ago. This was 4 years ago. Look how fucking emaciated this poor animal that should weigh 80, 90,000 pounds is. And another one, emaciated grey whale washing up on the BC beaches are a canary in the coal mine. 2 dead emaciated grey whales in 2026 in June. So it's pretty, to an average person who looks at it, probably looks like a healthy whale. But the minute you see that indentation of a spine, above and below its spine, and you see the skinny, flat back part, that's blatant starvation. Unusual timing. Beloved grey whales back feeding in BC instead of being in Mexico to have babies. 2025. Look at the peanut head. It's a blatant peanut head, right? And look at the back part. It's almost sharp like a knife. And you see the knobs on his tail. That's normal, but they're never that pronounced. Right? So it's severe fucking starvation. But that's severe. As soon as you look at the peanut head, you know that's starvation. You're not. You can't stay in denial, hopefully. This is an incredible story. A warning sign, grey whales are getting smaller. What a fucking scumbag, eh? I've been seeing adult population physically getting smaller over the past 2 decades. I'm sorry, decade and a half since Fukushima. They're not getting, like, and then they show you emaciated fucking grey whale. So they're not getting smaller, they're emaciated. Right, but he found a new way to tell the story, so 2024 he said they're getting smaller. But why? Because pricks like you won't fucking tell the truth. Seen their average adult body length shrink 13% in the past 2 decades. Well, they weren't shrinking before fucking Fukushima. So the past decade and a half. You worthless fucking piece of shit. The research published in the journal Global Change Biology in early June involved flying drones. I went out there and took hundreds of thousands of pictures, and I was considered a monster. I was considered the worst human imaginable. I was under siege the entire time for 6 years, doing my field studies. The findings offer a warning for the species in the latest signal that the large animals across the world's ocean are getting smaller. The findings was another single fucking paper produced by the industry to try to downplay, right? Oh, well, yeah, no, they're getting smaller. They're not emaciated. The whales are getting smaller. I read a study. Fuck off. Possible in response to climate change and human activities, said the assistant professor, one of the worst humans imaginable at any university, at Oregon State University Marine Mammal Institute. So they're extra scumbags in that case, right? Fuck, what kind of lowlife would do that? The assistant professor at Oregon State University's Marine Mammal Institute and co-author on the study. So, just publishing this study, you should get the shit kicked out of you. The fact that they declined so drastically, now they're extending it out to 25 years ago. In 2019, signs started to emerge. So it's not 25 years ago, it's 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Fucking scumbag. That something in that seasonal rhythm has gone wrong. Over the next 4 years, 600 whales turned up dead. So once you start reading down through it, you see they're talking about 2018, 2019, not 20 fucking years ago. In 2019, signs started to emerge. They're not talking about 20 fucking years ago. They're talking about 6, 7 years ago. Like, we've covered so much of this. Sometimes I can't contain myself. Sometimes it's just, I can't fucking contain it anymore. Thousands more are thought to have died and sunk at sea. Wish somebody fucking sink you at sea, you piece of fucking shit. By 2023, scientists estimated the grey whale population had fallen to around 15,500. Give your fucking head a shake. In 2021, it was down 18,000 had died into 27,000. A drop of nearly 40% over just 4 years earlier. So they're not talking about 20 years ago. All their numbers they're looking at is 2018, 2019 and onwards. It was just another way to build a lie. But they were getting skinnier. They were fucking emaciated. They were getting skinnier. They were starving to death, you fucking lowlife, boy. I could barely contain myself when I was reading this story. Arctic feeding whales tend to eat crustaceans that live in the sand and mud on the ocean floors. The coast, which is where the radiation is bioaccumulating. The coastal, so which means they're bioaccumulating it by filtering it. The coastal feeding group, on the other hand, tend to favor shallow kelp forest and rocky reefs where they can hoover up crab larvae and shrimp near the surface. That's an emaciated whale. Period. Not skinny from natural evolution. It's from fucking starvation. Underwater noise, entanglement in fishing gear, and collisions with boats. What a fucking lowlife, boy. He was struck by the way the whale's head and flukes appeared to be getting smaller. From a drone? Yeah, because they're emaciated. A few years ago, I remembered asking myself, is it a sign there's not enough food? Now they're actually starting to acknowledge it. But that's not what the title said, was it? You give them all the fucking money in the world, all the machines and equipment, all the prominence and prestige, all the authority in the world, and they'll cut your fucking throat right away for the rest of their careers. A good grey whale feeding ground requires a patch of ocean where deep water upwelling brings cool, nutrient-rich water to the surface. Those nutrients attract an array of smaller organisms like plankton, which in turn act as food for the mysis shrimp. And that's a sweet spot. They basically create a lot of food for other fish, birds, and grey whales. But that sweet spot had slipped, researchers found, and without enough food, mothers of the coastal feeding group couldn't build up their fat reserves to properly support their offsprings with milk. Well, that's a far fucking cry from 20, 25 years of whales all of a sudden becoming smaller. They're not smaller, they're starving. What a fucking lowlife to do that, boy. Oregon State University, you can count on it. A similar lack of food can stunt the calves once they're weaned. And this is a depiction of how they should look compared to what they now look like. So again, they're not supposed to be longer, they're just skinnier. Right? These are the lowest forms of fucking life we got, man. Is the academics and the scientists and the fucking journalists. The enemy of humanity, that's what these fucking people are. He said the fucking scumbag author acknowledged that the whale could still catch up if the ocean's conditions improve. What the fuck are you talking about? So put out this false hope, right? I get the same boat. My motor doesn't work. Their motor breaks, they'll have a new one tomorrow. They have endless funding. Can you imagine trying to have a conversation with these fucking people? How bizarre that would actually be. Can you imagine how embarrassed the future generation is going to be that we supported people like that? Their parents should be fucking arrested for having them. Does the smaller size offer, does this emaciated animal, it's not fucking smaller? An early warning sign that they have hit a psychological wall and won't be able to reproduce? Well, of course they can't fucking produce. The bioaccumulation is guaranteed. Because if it is, that's a serious problem. If it isn't, then maybe they're just adapted to be smaller. You already acknowledged it's only been going on since, right, they've only seen it, these kind of numbers since 2018, 2019, not 20 years ago or 25 years ago like they suggested in the first part. Like manipulative fucking scum. The bull kelp is almost all gone now. The health of a single whale as it migrates from Mexico to Canada can tell scientists about the health of the whole population. Why didn't you show us some real pictures like that, dirtbag? Well, I guess that's kind of cursed out here tonight. I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. I think it's a bad thing that I'm cursed out. I feel like I accomplished something by cursing the whole show anyway. It makes me feel better. Only good nuclear scientist is one that's grounded up and fed to the starving whales, as far as I can tell. Alrighty. What have I got done here? Ooh, James has, by the way, James donated almost $300 for the expedition and to help out. It's humiliating for me, but it's life-changing for me too. If people don't donate, we can't keep the operation moving. We're already almost at a standstill. But to go down and do what I done yesterday was that was gut-wrenching. By Rich, you should have been down there for 5 or 6 days, right? You're just not able to pull it off. And then going down there and coming back in the same days, I'm busted up, man. I'm glad I got a couple of days to recover here. And so James had posted, let me show you here. He had posted, just before we went live, I was watching that and listening to that. That's, he's making videos for other countries too. Even though that's in English. They're singing in English, right? But there's a couple of videos that he made. And this one here, salmon sharks in the salmon river. The graphics on that are it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The graphics on this one here, Nuclear Donor Party, I'm going to play that one. And I want you to, this is like a heavy metal type of thing. But what one person who sets his mind to accomplish something can do, this particular video, is the epitome of that. The graphics in it are better than anything I've ever seen anywhere. And remember, he's far from reaching his prime. He's fucking decades away from reaching his prime on this stuff. If he wants to stay at it, because the technology is crazy. What I mean by that is that he's got a long way to go before he runs out of ideas. So I'm going to play that video, and I want you to pick. Once it gets going, you're going to see graphics that are just unbelievable. Now I can't play it in the highest quality. I can play it in close to the highest quality, but I can't play it in the highest quality. And maybe your systems can, your TVs now can handle it, but my system, I can't handle the top quality. If you watch that in top quality, that'll blow your mind. I watched it last night when I came home. That left me smiling. Now, I had seen it the night before, and I had left a comment on it, but the comment is in the spam filter, I guess, or something. And so I left another comment because I wanted to make sure he understood that, not that he needed to, I'm sure, but anybody who was there to pay special attention to the graphics. That's what we're going to do right now, because that's very exciting stuff. I can't imagine how much horsepower it takes to render stuff like that. But I can tell you something else. When you're watching the video, pay attention to the graphics. And I can tell you, you've never seen nothing like it. No Hollywood has ever come close to this stuff. And he's very early on. Imagine what the capabilities can be, right? With somebody that puts their soul into this stuff. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody. Unless there's something shows up. I'll see you on Sunday. Hugs.
Hear me, travelers of firm intent, and cast your sight upon this road I name. Travelers of firm intent, and behold the road I set before thee. For in that far cut stands the nuclear works, a furnace of splitstone fire and uncommon craft, whose force grants provisions beyond present ken and means denied to common households. Step with me toward that distant rim, and heed not the unsettled ground beneath your wheels. Move onward on the nuclear road, where wrought metal answers those who dare the split. Hold no concern for any mishap unseen. Hastings keeps your passage in his keeping. Mark these words, neighbors and kin, for those who mutter hazard speak from wariness. Set aside tales of the course set loose, and wagon fire stories of vessels gone astray. Such talk is passed along by stragglers of the old cut road, who shrink before the work ahead. My course runs quicker, truer by my reckon, and bears you past heights none have rightly tallied. Press ahead into the nuclear fraud, where steady folks secure the years to come. Pay no mind to graybeards warning ill, their counsel lies with rows long worn. May rend, and streams sour from its burden. I hold such speech but campsite bother, from wanderers with no sense for measure nor trail sketch. Nuclear shall not betray you, for I myself have set its charge to broadside, and stand by also written here. the spent fuel repository. Let the earth shift beneath your travel, for this road alone brings the next era's key. And though the soil heave with sudden force and the noon sky carry isotopes unaccounted, stand steady. Such signs that 10 great undertakings, large works call for their portion paid. And though creatures clear the valley at your entry, yet proceed, for new standing waits beyond the stretch. I shall set down your doubts and take the nuclear call. Follow Hastings to the western reach. Behind lie the hesitations of settled folk. Ahead lie the fields shaped by those who at